All right, we are going to get started. That clock's a little bit fast. It's well, we're 1 minute behind. But some people are just grabbing some papers, and I will be happy to know and be brief. Yeah, me, I know that can happen. But before we begin, why don't we ask everybody, there was a nice flag in here earlier, and it went to another room for another meeting, but there's a flag there in the corner, so how about we stand and recite the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then I gave Pastor Kerry Duckett about 30 seconds notice and asked him if he'd be kind enough to lead us in a prayer as we begin this process.
Father, thanks for this opportunity to gather together with one of the greatest blessings you've given us, and that's community, friends, and neighbors. Lord, I pray that as we spend time together over this process, that you would direct our steps. Show us, Lord, what's best for our community and what would bring honor to your name. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you very much. Okay, well, I want to thank, I'm Paul Adamson, and I'm the mayor here, and I want to thank Pastor Dan Bell and the Manchester United Methodist Church staff for being kind enough to give us the room. We probably could have squeezed into council chambers. We maybe could have gone up to the high school, but we sort of wanted to have a neutral ground to get started with. So it's comfortable. It's you know, they always say if you want to have a nice party, invite about two times as many people as you have room for, and you'll have a good party. So I think we're in good shape. I want to thank Katie Smith, who, yeah, she would be surprised to hear that, but she does so much, and it's just countless. Including all the setup and the arrangements for this as well. I want to thank the selection committee, and I think the proof is in the pudding, with all the people that expressed an interest and a willingness to serve, and the folks that we ended up with. You look around you to your left and to your right, and it's just really an impressive group in the sense of experience, personality, character, and willingness to serve, and talent. So the community is blessed to have you here in service to them, and we sure appreciate it. I want to acknowledge we will have some resource people here at all of our meetings, and that'll be our department heads. And we have Chief Dan Bickett, who's with us, Fire Chief Steve Leslie, Deputy Service Director Brian Kepler. In the back is our zoning administrator, Barry Gannett. And we had two wild cards as resource people, and aptly named for Al Bullis. God bless him, our former mayor was willing to be here as a resource. And Lynn Clark as well, who's been our representative on Summit County Public Health. She's an attorney, longtime resident, wealth of knowledge in a variety of areas. So we've asked those folks to be available as you go through this process, not to lead it, not to partake, but to be available in the event information is needed. And so we'll make sure we have representatives from the various departments as we go forward. Let's see, I think I thanked all those folks. And I finally want to say, trust your consultants. And I say that with confidence. There's a lot of time spent in terms of determining who should lead us in this process. And the Pogemeyer Design Group has extensive experience in these areas. They're not going to tell anyone what to do, but they will guide you. And they're very skilled. And so I just suggest to you and encourage you to trust them as they guide you, and as together you guide the city through the comprehensive plan. My part is over in this sense. And I think that's really important. From the administration standpoint, this is your city, all right? This is your plan, and that's what we want. It's our plan, but not driven and not led from the top down, but instead from the people, which is as it should be. So, I'll be available as a resource, but these are your resource people, and you'll be led by the Pogemeyer Group. And with that, I will introduce Lauren Falcone. They had quite a tour of the city
Yes,
today, I understand as
Hour
well.
and a half worth, it was
So,
great.
and Lauren, I'll ask you to go ahead and introduce
Great.
the other young lady with you.
Thank you.
And you're on.
Great, I'm Lauren Falcone, I'm with Pogemeyer Design Group. We were recently, in the last couple of years, purchased by Kleinfelder, so my email will say kleinfelder.com when you email me. I will put cards on the table, but our contact information is at the back of the presentation. I've been planning for 26 years, and this is gonna be my 27th in August. I'm a Cuyahoga County, Cleveland native, I grew up in Westlake, I still live there. I have a master's degree in public administration, economic development concentration, and I have an undergraduate degree in also public administration. I'm a certified planner, do a lot with economic development. I work in all different sizes of communities all over the state. I also work in the state of Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, we kind of work all over. Most recently West Virginia, so I kind of bring that with me too, but I'm Ohio, I mean all the way. It's hard for me to work in Michigan, but I still do it. Sorry guys, but I brought with me today Christine Meskey, and she's been a sub for us, and I'll let her introduce herself and her credentials as well.
I'm Christine Meskey, I'm a landscape architect, actually on Boulevard Studios, which is a landscape architecture firm. We've teamed a number of times with Pogemeyer, especially on projects like this. Again, I've been a landscape architect for 26 years and graduated from Ohio State. Definitely lived and worked here in Ohio my whole career. I'm also a fellow Summit County resident, live at the North End in Macedonia. And yeah, definitely looking forward to working with you, especially as we look at gateways and parks and things like that, and some of those more finer design elements as part of the comp plan.
Great, thank you. So I'll go through my slide presentation. Please interrupt me with questions, that's not a problem. I like that, I like the interaction back and forth. I'll have a couple activities where you'll get up and do some homework here. But I want to start off by introducing the entire team. So you can see, am I in everyone's way? You can see up here, Paul and I are co-managing. He's actually out of town this week with his family in California and also at the National Planning Convention. So he's going to bring back lots of good information from that in San Diego next week. We have Beth Barton, our graphic designer, David, our GIS technician, so he'll be doing all the mapping. We have Tim Bach, he's a transportation engineer, and he's very familiar with the county. Sonny Hamizadeh, he's our architect, and then obviously Chris. So that's a team that you'll be working with through this process. So we think we have a really good base between, you know, 2 certified planners, a landscape architect, and PE and AIA, and then also the technicians. So this group has been working together for 26, 25 years too, so we all know each other pretty well, and we've been with Pogemeyer that long, and then obviously Chris and I have worked together 10 years, 5 years, it's been a while. Yeah. So this is the team. I have about 22 slides, so not too many, we have plenty of time for conversation. You know, before we pause, let's introduce ourselves as the committee. So we've got these guys here, but maybe start at the table, everyone in the committee's around the table, right? So literally like 2 seconds, name and your connection. So what do you do in New Franklin, are you a resident, you know, your connection to New Franklin, basically. I'll start with you.
My name is Kevin Hedrick, I'm a resident here for 33 out of 36 years of my life.
Great.
I'm Sharon Reck, I've been here for almost 35 years, I have a small hobby farm, I'm a retired teacher.
I'm Peter Shantz. We also have a farm on Center Road, resident for 65 years.
Mark Sedlak, we own our little 5-acre piece of heaven over on Grove Road. I'm a design engineer, lived here for 12 years. We love it here.
Great.
I'm Laura Jo Hawk. I've been here for 30 of my husband happiest years of his life because he's a manager through and through. And I'm in the nonprofit realm, so that's my expertise.
Nolan Cartner, I'm probably one of the newest ones here. We've lived in the area about 1.5 years and moved over from the other side of the county looking for getting a little bit more out of the city than we were and like the feel of this neighborhood over this way.
I'm Betsy Ingles, and I have been here 28 out of 60 years, so not quite half my life yet. Raised my daughters here, so I am a manufacturing person, that's what I do, so excited to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Barry Schaefer, I've been out here almost 30 years, resident and a business owner in the area.
Ryan Carr, I've been out here about 30 years. I'm a civil designer of developments and whatnot, and love it out here.
Gail Daly, I was born in Portage Lakes and moved to New Franklin, so I've been here a long time.
Cherie Lopachowski,
lived here 58 years on and off, raised 2 daughters here. I also went to Manchester, and I'm excited just to see where we're going.
I'm Judy Williams, I've lived here for 72 years. I'm just involved in the community and have a heart for making things better and keeping everybody well.
Great.
John Philblocker, born and raised here, left for a little bit for college and started my careers. Lived here for about a total of 24 years. I work in the field of Parks and Recreation Management, and I'm looking forward to this.
My name's Bailey Tenney. From when I was born until I was 18, I lived in New Franklin with my dad and mom, and then just moved in December and bought a house in New Franklin after renting for 6 years or so in Coventry. Excited to be here.
Great.
Tim Lusk, I've been here about 2 years. I came from Akron, Firestone Park. I was a park kid, military, city of Akron. Now I work for prototyping for Bridgestone. And I figured I should be involved in the community that I just moved into. I love it here. I worked at the upper deck security there for a while. So I was very familiar with the area and just kind of fell in love with it. And I moved my fiance from Medina down to New Franklin. So we're starting a family with our 4 kids here.
Josh Lepley, lived here for about 4 years. I'm a fireman with the city of Norton, and then I also run the youth soccer program here. Been doing that pretty much since we moved here, and just really like being involved.
Hi, I'm Mike Conwell. I retired out of the Army. My wife wanted to have horses, so we decided to move out here. She also was from Firestone Park. So when we came out here, we found our slice of happiness. We've been here about 10 to 11 years. My daughter went to Manchester High School. I was always part of their teams and supporting them. That was the year that they ran 55 consecutive wins, undefeated the entire time, thanks to Bobby Ecker and the other coach of the 8th graders. But I'm glad to be here. Service in the military really honed in the fact that everyone has a purpose, and I do want to make sure that I serve our community to the best of my ability.
Hi, I'm Cindy McDonald. I've lived here for 55 years, and I'm a retired high school principal and currently vice president on the Manchester School Board and the Portage Lakes School Board. And I just love my community, and I just want to see it become better and better every day. So I'm happy to be part of this.
Hi, I'm Steve Rector. I'm most of my life resident here, business owner, also on the school board with Cindy, and excited to be part of this and looking forward to it.
I'm Jack Daniels. I'm recently elected to the city council here. Lived here for about 26 years, raised my 3 kids here in New Franklin. I lived on the east side or the west side, now on the east side, both in Manchester School District, and looking forward to this.
I'm Nick Ball. I went to school here, raised through 18, and then my wife and I finally got the opportunity to move back this past year, so we jumped on that. I'm a teacher here. I'm really excited for the work I'm going to do here.
Jessica Evans, born and raised, have not left within like a mile radius my entire life, and currently work for Rocket Mortgage in technology.
Paul Donatelli, lived here 18 years, teach at McKinley High School, and I'm on the zoning board.
Carrie Duckett, the pastor at Grace Bible Church, lived here 8 years. All 4 of my boys graduated. Well, I got 1 still in high school. 3 of them have graduated. We're hopeful for the 4th one. we enjoy it very much.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. We got everyone, right? Yes. And then public, thank you for coming. We'll have comments at the end. If you can save your questions for the end, we'll go back to the public after we kind of get our business stuff done here. So thank you. It's great to meet everyone. I've read all your bios. Very impressive. To have this much interest in a committee is amazing. And to have such a good balance of a group is great too. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really good process. So a lot of people ask, what is a comprehensive plan? And does everyone know what a comprehensive plan is? It's nice to come to a community where you've already done one. So you guys did one in 2004, and it's basically, planning for the future. Addressing concerns, conditions, opportunities, challenges, and then kind of deciding, best practices. So we'll give you what the best practices are in the American Planning Association, and then we'll also bring with our experience. But again, as the mayor said, this is your plan, your ideas. We're gonna listen to the public and see what they want, and roll that all in together to a document that'll guide you for the next 10, 20 years. So again, we're taking stock of your current conditions, your trends. We're gonna create a vision that's very important for the future, and that'll kind of include your community essence, values, kind of a roadmap is our end goal. So then the services provided, what Hogemeyer is gonna do, we're gonna work through discovery and data collection, and we did give you some data for tonight. We're going to do collaborative envisioning, and that's when we really get out into the community and talk to them and get ideas what they wanna do with this plan. We're gonna talk about these workshops with them. We're gonna do a public survey that we can get hopefully to all the residents, and boy, if we could get them all, each household to respond, that would be awesome. But that's our goal. And then we're gonna do a draft plan, and of course, you guys are all gonna be involved in that, and you'll be reading the draft plan and working with us on that. And then we'll do a public review, so kind of a final meeting where we get any final comments from the public, and then wrap it all up and turn it into a document that hopefully everyone in the community can use. Okay, so comprehensive plan elements. So these are basically what we're looking at. We're gonna look at currently what your land use is, and then the future. But then we're gonna look at transportation, because obviously that's very important to a community. Recreation, open space, environmental assessment. We're gonna look at economic development, infrastructure, and really we gotta look at broadband, because that's a huge part of infrastructure. It probably wasn't in 2004. And then also utilities. And then housing is very important, and community facilities. So these are the key elements, what we call the planning elements, that every community works through when they do a comprehensive plan. Is there anything you can think of off the top of your head, something that you're saying, wait a minute, this is something I wanted to discuss, or this is something that I think needs to be part of the plan? If it is, shout it out, because we'll put it on here. You got it all? Well, what do you think is most important? Shout it out. What do you think is most important to me out of these planning elements?
I think broadband is really important. I know, multiple of my neighbors that now work from home, including my fiance. And, I live over on Hampshire, and there's very little internet. Even with, a Verizon cell phone link, we still get minimum speeds, just enough that she can actually do her job from the house.
And that's everywhere. I mean, that's Cuyahoga County too. I mean, that is the whole state. I mean, especially in the rural areas, and we're considered lucky because we're, Akron, Cleveland area. But yeah, so broadband, definitely, utilities, very important with the changing environment after COVID.
Well, and that's also gonna help with water and sewer as well. If you have sewer lift stations, you don't wanna have personnel monitoring them, you can have remote monitoring, remote IOs that monitor all that. So putting in broadband can be a big push for other things you have on here. It sets the infrastructure to run remote monitoring, which would help on some of the other things.
I agree. Yeah, these are all all interrelated too.
I would submit that current and future land use and zoning thereof is probably one of the most important things in controlling or framing how the community's gonna develop and maintaining the character of the community.
Good point.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And that's pretty much why people plan. I mean, that's why people do comprehensive planning, because they wanna make sure they have their future land use set up and their zoning set up so they can, I don't wanna say control, but they can guide what they want in certain areas of the community. And that's everywhere across the state, across the country.
I like what you said about everything being interrelated,
Yep.
because, in my neighborhood at one time, there were 7 what I call zombie houses. People just walked away from them because they couldn't afford them, or they couldn't afford to update their septic. So you can't have broadband and you're working out of your home if you don't have a home. So all these are very, very interconnected, but housing is a big thing.
Good point, housing, okay, got it. And there was someone over here too.
So this used to be a predominantly agricultural
Right, correct.
area in the county, and that's not on the list.
That's a good point. Let's
is-
add agriculture.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I guess there's some hobby farmers here, some
Mhm.
farmers, obviously.
I have land I farm, and I'm surrounded by farms.
So I have
And that's a
land.
good point. And usually we don't, that's kind of one of those outliers. I can tell you we're planning in Holmes County right now. We're doing their comprehensive plan, and one of their 9 principles, one was agriculture. So let's plan it. That's a really good point. Okay? Sure.
I'd like to see a better definition of the character of the community.
Sure.
Because as we talk about agriculture, But you know, you go up to certain other places and it's the recreational around the lakes and stuff like that. You live near Manchester Road and it's sort of the business, you know, thing. I'm not as familiar with certain other parts of New Franklin, cause where I live, I'm not on the west side. So as people talk about the character, it's what is the character? You know, we're not an agricultural community. I've heard people call us rural, but I know for a fact that we would be considered more suburban than rural. And so how do we define, who defines, how do we define the community?
That's a good point, and I think that's gonna come out, so we'll get through this and we'll talk about a visioning session, what we'll do next, and we'll invite the public, and at that point, we will start talking about kind of honing in on what's your vision. And that would include issues like, you know, rural, suburban, recreational, environmental, all that stuff. So yeah, we'll kind of frame it, but we'll leave it out we'll ask the questions to the public so they can kind of fill in. And so it's kind of consensus based on what we wanna be, basically what we wanna do with rural. Did something else?
She brings up a valid point, and I think when we do that, when we draw the map, we should identify which one of these areas is that district. So where there's heavy opportunity for ag, then we'll call that the agricultural district. Where the entertainment district would be around the Portage Lakes in that area, we'll call that the entertainment district. And then we can kind of identify each one of those value-added, geographic locations for us to decide how we plan in those areas.
Definitely, yeah, we can do that.
One of the chief concerns that I have is that we actually have two communities in one.
Okay.
And we have a dividing line at Grove Road. It goes by school district. Half the kids go to Manchester, a third or less go to Norton, and the rest go to Northwest.
Right.
And I think that splits our community.
Coventry, so there's 4 districts, right?
Coventry also.
There's 4, and the statistics are actually that 63% or so go to Manchester. 63, I just looked this up not too long ago, and the remaining 30-some% go to all of the others. So Coventry, Norton, and Northwest make up about a third.
Yeah, to me, it's just foolish.
So there's an identity, maybe sort of an identity issue.
I think so.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about.
You got 3 newspapers, and I never see anything about Northwest schools or.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's a valid point. Good summary.
So, I'm from Akron, like I said, from Firestone Park, and one thing that kind of puzzles me about this area, and maybe I'm wrong, but there's not like a downtown gathering place. I'm used to Firestone Park, there's parades around the park, everybody gathers in the park, there's events at the park. You know, my fiance is from Medina, they have Medina Square, and they have little shops and restaurants, and I mean, it would be really nice to have that old world little town center with an ice cream shop, something that the kids can ride their bike to. Because I had that growing up in Firestone Park, and I was kind of expecting that out here, and I was kind of shocked to find none of that really seemed to exist.
That's one of the biggest complaints in planning, is you lose your third place, the place to gather. So you have home, you have your work, and then what's your third place? It's somewhere you can go in the community to feel like part of the community, and you're not alone. And when urban renewal came through, I don't know how many percentage of the downtowns, but they were builders. So people are trying to recreate it, like I live in Westlake, Parker Park, that's our downtown. Sad as it is, I mean, it's a great place to be, but it's not historic, like what you're looking for, what you're asking for. But yeah, that's a good point.
I might respectfully submit that there are those of us who might live in the community that don't want that kind of town center, that specifically moved here for a rural atmosphere that doesn't have that, and there are plenty of cities that have that, but that's my own personal opinion, so we'll have to make sure everybody's opinions are
Okay, definitely.
Well, one of the things I'd like to see is, I really enjoy the parades when they occur. But I'd really like to see more community events besides Friday night football, you know, but things that happen like community picnic, the Tudor House, and some other things like that, more community-based activities. You know, whether it be by the churches, the schools, the city, something more where I can on a Saturday evening or Saturday afternoon, you know, something's happening somewhere I can go and enjoy it.
One over here?
I'm on the Tudor House Events Commission, and we are doing, and inviting the community to several, things that we have going on 3 movies during the summer for the kids. We have an event, vendor and craft thing on May 29th. We have a July 4th celebration, an old-fashioned community day. We have the fireworks. We have a barbecue in August. We have an Oktoberfest in October, and we have an open house for December 4th for Christmas. So we do have things. We try to advertise, but our advertising probably isn't as good as it should be. But the community, all the communities, all the schools in the area are welcome to come.
Great. Well, I'm gonna pause on that so we can keep moving, but so we have these plan elements. I feel like we hit everything we needed to. We'll hit agriculture, and I'm gonna flip to the next slide, because I think this activity will kind of dovetail right into that. All right, so you have sticky notes in front of you, you have Sharpies. I have 2 big questions for you. What do you want to accomplish in this planning process? Give me bullet points, like 2 or 3 bullet points. And then what are your hopes and expectations? So if your hope and expectation is you want to come out with a 3rd place or a gathering place, then put it on here. Or a vision. I mean, they're kind of interrelated. But I'm going to give you like 3 minutes. Oh, do you want some pads of paper too?
No, we're good.
Yeah. Well, that's right, no, I was thinking, yeah, we'll just do that next time. But yeah, so bullet points, visions, and then what you want to accomplish. And then please come on up and stick them on here, the right board.
So it's not a vision, it's not a hope, it's just a random idea.
I don't, he was gonna try to get through.
Oh, here.
I consider myself more excited. I might have started.
Yeah, outside, to the green ones, the outside.
I guess it's hoping
They both go there.
it's just a middle.
I'm like, if they have the same last
Written down 2 ideas and I write them down and it sounds
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
The middle one.
Can I put anyone up there for them? They don't want to get up?
Oh, really? That's my
One more minute, if you could wrap it up and get them up here, or I'll come and get them from you. Thank All right, did everyone have a chance to write it down and get it up here? Oh, one more. This is some of Ryan's writing. All right. Can I read All right, anyone else? We got everyone? All right, let's get back to this. All right, so the next slide, this one is really really important. Rules of engagement. So it sounds like the tagline for our document is going to be your city, your voice, which I think is excellent. I think Katie came up with it. That's very good. But I guess this is the point. I mean, we all have different ideas. There's 20 plus of you here. We need to get everyone in the group's ideas. No idea is a bad idea, please. We'll definitely record it. And remember to use your public meeting decorum, because again, these are recorded and this is really a public meeting. We might have to institute time limits to get through everything. Like we might have to say, okay, 1 minute or 2 minutes, just so everyone has a chance to speak. You are the steering committee, the voice of the public. We're gonna be listening to the public. We have a parking lot here, and I love this in planning. Okay, if we get off topic, we write it on the parking lot, we put it up here, and we will come back to it at some point. And this is great in parenting too. I used it a lot in parenting. But getting back to the parking lot, I mean, at least we validate you, we understand you, but we gotta put it right here because we got things we have to do here. This is a working committee. So, also the city has a website set up, if you've probably all seen it, but you can log comments there too. So if you're talking to your neighbor and they have a great idea, tell them to email that website, because again, we're gonna log all those comments, we're gonna talk about it in these groups. The city came up, or the selection committee came up with these rules of engagement, and they're excellent. I think they worked with Jennifer Six, their economic development consultant, that did it too. So again, this is what we're working through, these 6 points, courtesy, dignity, respect, sensitive to time constraints, you're a cohesive unit, you're a steering committee. You need to be present physically and mentally, and that you're all here on this, well, this is kind of a crummy night out, but you're all here on a Tuesday is great. We're gonna have fun, but not at the expense of others. You're serving your community proudly, effectively, and with honor. And then this quote, I can't take credit for it. I think Katie or someone put it on the website. But let us neither express nor cherish any hard feelings towards any citizen who has differed with us. Let us all remember that all American citizens are of a common country. Abraham Lincoln. So I think that's a great quote. I did not know that quote until I saw it on your website, the city's website. So I think that's a great thing we need to remember. And I think this is all in you were all emailed this too. So if we could go to the next slide. These are basically your responsibilities. So what did I sign up for? It's going to be fun, I promise. A 90-minute steering committee. I think we have we have more than that. We'll go through that in a minute. But, coming here, sitting here for an hour and a half, talking, getting the ideas out, productive discussion, following the rules of engagement, remembering that you're a part of a body, a collective voice, and that our goal is to move toward consensus for this comprehensive plan for the next 10 to 20 years of New Franklin. Attend public events, and those are the fun things. When the public comes and you can talk to them and kind of get their ideas of what they want. We're gonna have a visioning event, stakeholder workshops, speakers bureaus, so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And then we want you to review the draft chapter. So that might not be the most fun part. If you don't like proofreading, I'm really sorry, but someone's gonna have to help me with this. So we'll write the report, but we want you as a committee to proof it. So you can say, yes, that's what we heard, that's what we said, to make sure that, because that document is going to be approved by council and taken for the next 10 to 20 years. And then this was the city's idea, or the steering committee's idea, or not steering, the selection committee's idea was to actually sign the document, kind of like a final plan, sign the proclamation, which is a great idea. Put your signature here. And then to be involved in implementation meetings, post-plan approval. So the goal is, in the next 12 to 15 months, is to put this plan together. But then we need to keep going with it. I mean, you gotta work toward an implementation. So we will take all these ideas within those various planning elements, and we'll give you, kind of goals and strategies to get to that planning element that you want for the next 10 to 20 years. So again, it doesn't end when the report is done. The hard work begins then, because you really have to implement.
Where in there is the community survey?
It would be under, we'll do the survey, so we'll do it with you. I mean, we'll give you a draft, and then you guys will go through it and say, yeah, this is a good question, what do we think about this? Kind of like the agricultural comment, kind of putting in the pieces, and then that will go out to the community, so we'll get to that. But we usually use SurveyMonkey, but you don't actually have to go survey people.
But is it gonna be pretty early in the process, or are we gonna spend a lot of time?
No, I think it's gonna be soon, like second, third phase. So yeah, we'll get there, I promise. But yeah, so that's basically your responsibilities, and that you all have this wonderful notebook. So I would recommend, if you didn't print out what Katie emailed to you, then make sure you get a copy here and stick it in your notebook, because I think you'll be referring back to this information that we go over tonight. Any questions about this besides the survey? This will tell you when the survey's going. Any questions about your commitments? No one's running out of the room? Okay, so we always do a 4-phase process. And that was one of the, this was in your notebook or printed out. It's kind of a colored sheet here. So that's basically what we're gonna be working through for the next, 12 to 15 months. So basically, phase 1 is discovery. So we kind of started in February, going over the data for New Franklin. and it's a kickoff meeting, which we're having right now, and then the data collection, which we've been doing, and then document review. So that's basically phase one. So phase one is pretty much coming to an end in April. And we worked through the scope, so this is the scope that we're using, the four-phased approach. We worked through that with the selection committee, and then it went to council, and council approved it with our contract. So not to say we can't tweak it along the way, but this is what we've done in other communities. This is what the American Planning Association gives us as best practices, so this is what we're going to use. I can tell you, we did Grafton, Chris and I did a comprehensive plan in Grafton together, and they decided they wanted more focus on their downtown, because they do have an historic downtown, so we added, it was Parks and Rec, We added a Parks and Rec workshop, so we only had like 3 workshops proposed, and then we added another one, because there was so much input that the community wanted to give us on Parks and Recreation. So if something like that comes up, we can obviously discuss it, but this is pretty much the scope that we're gonna work through. And then phase 2, that's where the community survey comes in. So it comes in pretty quickly. So between May and August, we'll have the community survey. So we'll have a visioning event, and then these workshops, and then the community survey. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later too, I believe. And then phase 3 would be the plan development. So then we'd have we'd hold the workshop. So I guess in phase 2, we're gonna be preparing for it. And then phase 3 at the end of that, so next year, January, or February, we would be actually writing the draft plan. And then March through April, we would be reviewing it with the public, reviewing it with you, then reviewing it with the public, and then have that signing party and then final adoption. So everything that we do should go to planning commission and then city council for approval, so it's, formalized. Any questions on this one? All right, timeline, so that's kind of a big deal too, and I think, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sure.
I had a question regarding, regarding the survey.
Okay.
I have some thoughts and some concerns about how the survey is been proposed that it's gonna be conducted, and I'm wondering where in that process we have the opportunity to put that formation, those kinds of questions or concerns prior to us reviewing a draft survey in the second meeting.
Sure, so we'll have the visioning session, so that we're proposing from, I think it's May, is that right? I think that's the next slide. So we're proposing the visioning session. A lot of the survey questions will probably come out of that visioning session. That's usually how it works. Also, we'll probably talk to you guys, obviously. I mean, we'll give you a questionnaire that we typically use, because we wanna make sure we talk about housing, we wanna talk about parks and recreation, we wanna talk about economic development, transportation, agriculture, all the planning elements in that survey. But it's hard for the public to do a survey, so we gotta make sure they're good questions, right to the point, and that people are gonna answer them. I can tell you, we just did one in Holmes County, and it was 20-some questions, and we had a 50% response rate. So people started the survey, but only 50% completed it, if that makes sense. So,
It's pretty good, isn't it?
well, it's only 50% finished it, I should say. So 50%, like,
We got 30% the last time we did ours.
Exactly.
But people didn't finish, I guess I'm confusing you.
Of the people that started.
Started it, only 50% finished it, that's what I'm trying to say. So you got 30% response rate, that's great. I mean, we just did one in Worthington, and I think they have 15,000 residents, and we got 1,000 respondents, and we were thrilled. We thought that was exciting. In Holmes County, there's 44,000 residents, we've had 400 fill out the survey.
Is it all online? I think that was the.
We have
Yeah,
both.
that was-
We
that
have
was one
both.
of the-
Yeah, and again, that's what you guys wanna decide to do. I can tell you, most consulting firms are going away from paper.
Well, but then that also
Gets rid of your old people.
excludes a
No, I agree,
significant portion of the
So I can
population.
tell you what we did in Amish country, cause they don't use, a lot of the Amish don't use, internet. So we put paper surveys that you folded out, and we put them at, like, the auction house, we put them at, the library, we put them at places that we knew the Amish were going. And I think we only have 40 paper copies right now, but we're gonna keep trying. I mean, but yeah, if you want to, I can tell you in Worthington, they mailed the survey to every resident, and that's expensive.
Very what we did here.
Yeah, very expensive. So if that's something you guys wanna do, we can definitely discuss it. I think 30% is great. I mean, 30% response rate.
We mailed.
Mailed it, yeah, and that's fine. And if that's what you wanna do, we can do that. We also found what was really handy was Facebook ads. So there would be an ad on anyone that has a New Franklin zip code or has something in their Facebook page that says New Franklin, pops up in the corner saying, take our survey, and takes you right to the survey. we had a big boost in Worthington with that, and they're not expensive, Facebook ads, like $40, something like that. So that's, I mean, when we get to that phase, we'll talk, believe me, we'll talk it to death. I mean, we will make sure that you are happy with the survey, that we are reaching the most people we can, so that'll be our goal.
Still plenty.
I like the idea of leaving it at the library, because I think a lot of people at the checkout go to the library and are always looking at all the flyers, and they will take it and fill it out, but it's just, you don't want to leave with it, you want to stay there, fill it out, and give it back to you, so it doesn't disappear in their car or something. Did you have a question?
No, just scratching my butt.
Okay. So yeah, so we will definitely have a discussion about the survey, and we'll propose to you what best practices are and what we've done, and you can say, yeah, this will work, or no, this won't work, or we need to make sure we do X, Y, and Z, so. Oh, timeline, okay, so, the goal is, we've thrown these dates out for the, and I think that was on one of the handouts too, did you see that there was a draft timeline? It's right here. This is it, if you, with the little sprinkles on the top. We tried to come up with dates that weren't going to conflict with like council meetings, you know, planning commission meetings, school board meetings. We have 2 dates for visioning, May 17th and 19th. There is an event on Memorial Day at the Tudor House, and so we're hoping that people from the committee would be willing to volunteer to man like an hour shift, 2 people an hour, and hand out information about the plan, like maybe some visioning cards, get people kind of excited, get the QR code to get them back to the website to keep them up to date on the planning process. And then we talked about a second steering committee meeting held June 22nd or 23rd. So I don't know, and you don't have to answer now, but if you wanna go back and shoot me an email if you think one of those dates is not gonna work, we're probably gonna decide between those 2 dates. And then we also, in planning, you really wanna get to where people are gathering, so that's why we talked about the Memorial Day event, but also the 4th of July events, any school events, and then I'm assuming a lot of you are involved in PTA, and Rotary, Kiwanis, whatever organizations are here. Churches, I mean, if you can go back to your group and give a presentation, like we would actually do the presentation for you, we call it a speakers bureau, it's, you know, a 10-minute presentation. But it's just to get the community excited about it, you know, get them to the website, get them commenting, you know, give them vision cards, just getting them involved in the process. So it's not just the people that come to the public meetings, you're going out into the community and kind of getting them involved. So that's worked a lot in a lot of our communities. I guess, you know, is 6:30 the best time for us to meet for our next steering committee? Was this a good time for you, 6:30 to 8? A lot of nodding, okay. Yeah, usually, you know, try to keep it to an hour and a half. Maybe sometimes we go a little bit over, but we realize that, you know, everyone has a lot of commitments. Any questions about that, the timeline? I mean, I'm just kind of giving you through July, just because I don't want to overwhelm you, because obviously we're going to be doing this for a while. But if you do look at this form, it goes all the way to the end, which is obviously next year. Okay, no questions on that?
I just have a meeting day comment.
Sure.
Wednesdays are amazing for me.
I don't even know what day it is. It's
I don't know what-
Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, but Wednesdays is kind of in the middle of the week, so
Yeah.
if
Yeah, cut into like Jensen's time, I
but
like that.
every other Wednesday is city council, so it's.
Okay,
you know,
tough to climb
but
around it.
your 23rd, your June, I'm just throwing that out.
Is that
If anybody
Wednesday?
else, if everybody else hates Wednesdays, well then.
Yeah, we usually say to meet between Tuesday and Thursday, because Monday people forget, and obviously the rest, I mean, Thursdays are sometimes hard too, but still, we can still have them. All right, so Wednesdays are, that one comment is Wednesdays are better. And I don't say when I have a calendar, the 22nd or 23rd, you said was which day?
Yeah, the 22nd's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Are you gonna have a cake for my birthday?
Oh,
there you go. That was the
no, you don't
whole
wanna
idea.
come to our
That was the whole
meeting
plan.
on your birthday, do you?
I wasn't
Oh,
gonna let anybody know.
I'll do it. That's very nice of you.
See how you work that in?
All right, so we'll work on the timeline, but I think that's, if you go home tonight or tomorrow and look at your calendar and say these dates are not gonna work, just email me, shoot me an email, and I'll leave the cards, here for you too. All right,
So I have a question on that.
Sure.
What is our theoretical attendance rate? Like, just for example, is there a minimum number of people, like say, you know, we're just coming out of a pandemic.
I know.
So how many people do we have to have an official meeting?
That's a procedural question, who from the city wants to answer that? I don't think you need to have quorum here, we're not taking any votes, right?
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I see him shaking back, no, you're fine, I mean, basically, it's whoever shows up,
Okay.
we're going to record your comments, so please show up.
That was really the point, to have the size that we have so that you can have some flexibility in the process. The real goal is to have as many people as often as possible so your voice is heard. But again, because of the length of the duration of this entire episode, anything can happen, like that. your opinions are so valuable to have that, you know, it's a joy to hear them sometimes.
If we miss a meeting, can we watch?
That's a good point. We're recording it right now, so I'm assuming we're gonna record the rest of the meetings, and then also I will do brief minutes. So if you do miss a meeting, make sure you do look at the minutes as well. But yeah, you can watch the recordings too, that's a great idea.
And as we move forward, we will have someone taking notes from the events, and we will have access to that as well.
Great, anything else? Okay, so we went through, well, we prepared your 2004 comp plan. I was not part of that team. I was at Pogemeyer, but I think you had a couple different consultants from Pogemeyer there. Your theme was today, tomorrow, together, which is a great theme. You were looking at a vision back then for the township and the village for the next 20 years. And the big thing that they said in that plan was you were providing a framework for informed spending and regulatory decisions to determine the future character of the community. So I think that's a nice sum up of what a comprehensive plan is. And then your decisions included proper location and nature of future development, need for public facilities and infrastructure, and then determination of scenic, environmental, and historic resources. My comment from the last plan was there was a lot of mapping and so I don't feel like we need to repeat a lot of what was done. There's a lot of environmental research that was done, so we'll draw as much as we can from that. It was a big plan. I think it was over 100 pages. So I don't know, a lot of my communities are going to much smaller plans. Like they're going towards, and I should have brought it with me, a placemat. So they'd have an executive summary placemat that they would just walk. I mean, they'd take wherever they needed to go, to a grant funder, to, you know, the planning commission, wherever. So it was just a snapshot. No one had to read through 100 pages to figure out what you guys decided you wanted to do for the future.
At
So
the
I think,
time that plan was drawn up, we were facing annexation from
Yep.
Barberton.
right, yeah.
And I think the majority of the people wanted to keep this
Right.
rural flavor.
Mhm.
And I think I'm already sensing that we're losing that
Okay.
in this, sorry to say that,
Oh, in the plan?
right now.
Oh, like today, like
Yeah,
what's happening, okay.
you don't bring it up unless we do.
Okay, no, that's fine. So Barberton, you were facing annexation.
That's why we incorporated.
Right.
And the goal, what was pitched to a lot of people was that we were incorporating
To save
to
the
protect
rural.
our.
Yeah.
We had really no say in making this New Franklin. All of a sudden it became New Franklin.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, looking back on it, yeah, so that, I mean, again, you were involved in the committee, the first committee in 2004?
No, I'm just a citizen.
Got it, okay. Yeah, so if you guys wanna go online and look at it, I would highly recommend it. It's on the city's website.
Is it possible to get a hard copy? I'd like to actually highlight
Sure,
things, but I don't know if I wanna run off 145
Yeah,
pages.
I can ask, there's Katie. I can ask Katie to do that for you.
I'd also be curious if we could get some of your other recent plans, like the one you're talking about that's a placemat.
Yep, I can, so I will send cause I can do a link to that, that's easy. So send a link to Grafton, and we did another one in Lexington that we just finished up. Yeah, so that's no problem, and then you're looking for a paper copy.
I love one.
So, tell me your name again, I can't.
Sharon.
Got it, so we'll get Katie to get you that. If anyone else wants a paper copy, just email. Yeah, there's a lot of maps, I'm not sure if you want all the maps, maybe you just want the narrative, I don't know, yeah. Okay. All right, well, thank you for that. And then we're gonna go a little bit more into the 2004 plan and what you guys decided then. You wanna click the next slide, please, sorry. So this is what the residents said back in 2004. This is what they liked about the community. Peace, quiet, rural character, large lots, open space farms, you know, beauty of the community, little traffic, low taxes, low utility costs, affordable housing, and good schools. So they're probably some of the same things you'd say you like about the community today. I mean, any changes you can think of that you wouldn't agree with right now in 2022? One at a time so I can record it. Is it over here?
I think taxes.
Okay.
Housing isn't quite as affordable.
That's very, anywhere, not just here.
You know.
Okay. Affordable or available, okay.
I mean, this area, the houses are going outrageous prices.
Everywhere.
And that's great for property
Everywhere,
values.
yeah.
Especially if you have land,
Yeah.
but there's not, and not that I'm suggesting we build affordable housing, because I like the fact of the big lots. I like the fact that it has large lots.
Okay.
I think there should be a 3-acre minimum for a house to be built on.
Okay. I heard other comments over here, who wants to say, just make sure they're recorded.
We don't have little traffic anymore.
Okay, traffic has changed.
Very true.
Very conforming. Sorry.
Say it again? Oh, I missed it.
Very conforming.
Where are those swings?
This is probably controversial.
Okay.
I love controversial
That's okay, I'm fine with it.
I'm not so sure beauty of the community, okay, so
Okay.
here's the thing, I mean, I think our neighborhoods and the majority of our community is a very beautiful place to live.
Okay.
But I'll be honest with you, I do not think Manchester Road is
Okay.
beautiful. And I don't think that when you drive into our community, it is very appealing
It
or
does not have perfect
friendly.
view.
Okay.
It's kinda looks like we're, no, I don't wanna, I'll say the wrong thing, but,
Okay.
I mean, it's just, that needs a little facelift.
Unorganized.
I can second that.
Unorganized, okay.
It's unorganized, it's not clean.
Not appealing?
It's
Okay.
not appealing.
There was no plan.
Not aesthetically pleasing, that's a good one.
You know, you're driving down Manchester Road, there's some houses that are not in the best shape that you know, that's one of our main thoroughfares. And to see houses that are in dilapidated states, that doesn't represent well in a community.
The corridor look down Manchester Road.
Say it again?
Corridor, Manchester Road corridor.
The corridor needs
You're
improvement.
not gonna avoid it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot, you know, I live off in West Nemisilla. West Nemisilla is actually a pretty nice looking road. You drive up and down there, it's pretty nice, but I drive down Manchester every day to work. And there's often, you know, stuff that I just like, man, you know, it reminds me of spending my weekends in Green with my grandfather. You know, how many trucks do you need on blocks in your driveway? Mine are at least all behind the barn. I mean, they're still on blocks, but you can't see them from the road.
Okay. Anything else from this list? No? Okay. Then we moved on to 2004, what the public said they'd like to improve. So keep taxes low, autonomy of the community, rural character, large lots, improve appearance of Manchester Road and certain other areas. So that's what we need to work on.
Still.
All right, it's a big project, it's a big stretch. All right, well, that's, I mean, that's the point. I mean, that's part of the beauty of comprehensive planning, is you can go back and see what you said, and what you did, you can check it off the list, and what you still need to work on, so we work on. So, okay, that's good. More housing services for seniors, promote balanced growth, protect sensitive natural resources, more shopping, restaurants, and industrial development, but a limited amount. More recreation opportunities and trails, build a community center. So what do you think about that? I mean, anything you think that,
The only shopping we had, we lost.
okay?
There's Dollar General, come on.
Pardon me?
There's Dollar General, come on.
So that's still somewhere we need to work on, more
If we're not
shopping,
careful, they'll build
restaurants.
3 more out here.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't really consider shopping an issue, to be completely honest, and this is
Okay.
my opinion. We are 20 minutes from everywhere.
Okay,
I can be in Canton in 20 minutes, I can be anywhere with a multitude of stores that I really would not want shopping in, of that caliber. I don't want a Walmart here.
okay,
I mean, it's my opinion, but I just,
I don't either, but I'd like a grocery store.
okay.
well, you know.
We had one.
And I understand that, it would be nice to have a smaller grocery store,
Okay.
but, you know, you have dealers right there in the lakes.
Okay.
I mean, that's less than 15 minutes from this area.
And that's the hard part. I mean, you can't control what that circle is they draw on retail. And that's what the developers do. They put a dot on New Franklin and draw a circle to see if you've got the population to support,
Yeah.
the retail.
I'd also submit that retail, whatever it is, whatever kind of store it is, it's gonna be, the population is gonna support it or they're not.
Right.
If there's not enough traffic, they're gonna go out of business. So,
We lost the grocery store because of Giant Eagles and the Buellers and all that.
which are all very close distance away, and the population makes their choice.
Right.
So,
But we do need some new business in town that will grow our tax base
Yes.
to keep the rest of the taxes lower, in a controlled manner that meets the community's expectations.
Okay, no, that's a good point.
But we also need the infrastructure to be able to do that.
That's a good point too. Yes.
That comes back to broadband, sewer, water, stuff like that.
something that came up, I'm gonna toss something out there, that came up in the computer, Citizens Advisory Panel we talked about quite a bit, is the commercial corridor that Norton is developing out eastern out to 21. That whole area is now gonna have that freeway leg that might promote some light industry or fulfillment centers, that kind of thing. I mean, that's where Clinton Aluminum moved. and it might be an area where we can create some good paying jobs by planning and attracting that type of business based on the development that's happening on that corner of, which also has a lot of open land.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments on these, what you'd like to improve in 2004? All right, and then I guess it's not on the slide, I have it in my notes, but they asked the public about where there's little agreement. Provision of sewer service, provision of water service, and annexation/merger. Probably still true, except the annexation merger.
That's a big fight. We do need that through the business district down, all the way down Manchester Road, to get new businesses in there.
And to add to that, that broadband has to be part of that layout.
Yep.
So like I said earlier, one of the issues is if you don't have the right supporting structure, it costs you more money. If you have sewer, you have to have pump stations. We have pump stations, those have to be maintained by people. Those people cost money. Not only that, we don't have a treatment plant here. I spent 9 years working on a treatment plant. It's a huge budget to run a treatment facility. For us to treat water, it has to go to Barberton, or it has to go all the way to Akron, or it has to be dealt with by Summit County. And as a non-resident, getting your water treated costs twice what it would if you were a resident of one of those areas. So I understand the business corridor, I agree. Sewer and water is definitely, eventually, we will be forced to go there. It is better to go there on our own terms and our own time frame than being forced by the EPA. Because eventually the EPA will mandate it. So setting up the groundwork by doing broadband, setting up the groundwork by doing the business corridor, and sizing a sewer that is large enough to be added onto, to eventually tie the homes into, if they so choose, would be a great way to attract more business.
That brings up a question I've always asked. How long does it take before we break even on any of those projects? And how do we fund it? For society?
And I think,
Then it goes to percentage of increase to the property owners for taxation. So.
She's sitting here saying she doesn't, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
She's sitting here saying she doesn't even have cable.
No, we don't have, where I live, we have no gas, no cable, no broadband.
That's an issue.
Do you live on Manchester Road?
No.
Okay.
Might as well.
But that's kind of my point, is we have areas like where I'm at, we barely have any cable. We have cell phone we use for our internet. And even then, that's pretty spot.
Basic infrastructure issues.
well, I think consistency of infrastructure, yeah.
Well, yes, I think to his point, it would be nice to make some areas a little bit more business attractive, but we can't put all of our eggs in that basket, because there's a lot of people. One of my neighbors is a business owner and owns a very large company and does a lot of business out of his house. My other neighbor and my fiance both work from home, because after the pandemic, that's a common thing. And these are all people that, pay taxes in this community, and we want to keep them in this community.
Okay. All right, so
I guess I have a question for the comprehensive plan, and you said it's a 20-year plan in 04.
2004, yeah.
So is this guiding the city government? Is this what they're using as, because I look at that list, and a lot of it went the totally other way.
Okay.
Taxes aren't low. There's no community center. There's no more trails that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Shopping, restaurants.
And I think too, unfortunately, it all comes down to time and money.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what, in life, time and money. But I think that's comprehensive planning. You usually have short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. And then, you hopefully have resources to fund all those. And sometimes you don't. There's not a community, and I can tell you maybe there's one, Orville, Ohio. They come to us and say, we did everything. We checked it all off. Can we start again? One community out of the 88 counties we work in, 86 out of 88 counties. I mean, it's hard, it's really hard.
So what happens at the end of this 15 months when the plan is in place and you say, oh, good job, we're all done? Who's the watchdog?
Well, that's a very good point. So,
Who carries on?
I can tell you different scenarios. Sometimes it's a steering committee that meets every 6 months. Sometimes it's city staff that gets together, and says, okay, what can we work on? What grants can we go after? What can we put into our capital budget? Sometimes, some communities go to a whole different group. Like they see who attended the public meetings and they pick an implementation steering committee. So that group, meets every 3 months, every 6 months, every 12 months to make sure that things are getting done. But again, you can do that as much as you want. If the funding's not there, the funding's not there. So I guess it all comes back to funding. So there was a question over here too.
I was just gonna say, one of the things that people need to keep in mind, more shopping, restaurants, and industrial development, great idea. You have green. Businesses don't wanna come here when they can go to green and all the infrastructure's there. Norton is pushing for that right now, and they're still losing to other communities around them. I don't think trying to limit it is gonna be an issue, because it's gonna self-limit just because the infrastructure is not
Right.
there.
And that's the chicken egg thing. I mean, do you put the infrastructure in, hope they come, or do they stay in green? I mean,
Norton's
It's a
putting in
million-dollar
the
question.
infrastructure right now, and it isn't working out so well, so.
I might just toss a comment out in response. Green is also, I read every single time I get the leader that their council is approving a new zoning for hundreds of apartment buildings that creates the population density by the freeway that businesses are attracted because there's all that population. What we as a community need to decide is, do we wanna do that or not?
I think that it's pretty clear from the community that you guys
Exactly.
don't, like, that's.
I was gonna say,
That's the
we've
opinion.
echoed it this meeting, a few of us have.
Yeah.
And it's also been echoed in 2004.
Yeah, so I don't think it's changed much.
I don't think the mentality has changed much as far as wanting to stay more in the rural settings.
And the survey will tell us.
yeah, I think the visioning session will tell us a lot. I mean, we can kind of go through it. Let me get Michael, and then I'll get you real quick covered in 5 minutes.
One thing we did talk about from the previous meetings we've held is let's focus on what we have that's attractive as opposed to creating the unknowns. We know that we have XYZ commodity. Let's try to capitalize what we have. When we talk about way signage in order to show some of the trails, show some of the routes. When we talk ag, we've got a lot of agricultural opportunities here. We also talk about having small businesses footprints that are 25, 30, 40 employees that wouldn't overwhelm the need for having massive infrastructure changes. So I think that's part of what we want to see in the community, is things that fit us without really changing the dynamics of the community.
Go over to him, and I'll come back to you. Go ahead,
I know for a while on Clear Maston, close to 21 is an area they deemed as a future area for development in real estate and commercial businesses. The problem is it's also the area that has a lot of agricultural land. So we want a lot of these things, but we can only pick 2 out of 5.
Okay.
And, discussing home values and property values, this is a place people obviously wanna be. And I would argue that's because of what we've done up to this point.
Okay.
The fact that we don't have the town square, and I lived in Medina for 3 years, and the square is amazing and I miss it. I can go drive to Medina. We're 15, 20 minutes from everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's hurt the community one bit,
Okay.
not having that center.
Okay.
We've let other people pay those bills for us in Greene and Wadsworth and Norton.
And I think that's gonna come out in the visioning and the survey. I mean, I think we can ask those kind of questions. What are you willing to drive to? What are you not willing to drive to? Ranking. What do you need from this community?
I was just gonna say, I really like his idea of highlighting some of the strengths.
And I think-
Some of the reasons why I moved down here is because of the rural atmosphere, because of the Portage Lakes, because you're close to everything. And that's actually was a big selling point for bringing my fiance, who refused to leave Medina. And I practically had to drag her kicking and screaming. Don't worry, officer, it wasn't real. Figured it was.
You'll catch him outside.
But,
it's easy to sell this area if you drive down some of these back roads and see some of the beautiful views. I wake up with turkeys in the yard, deer every day. There's actually been a bobcat around in the area lately, which is kind of a rare sight. But you know, that is a selling point.
Yeah, no, I
And
agree.
to the agriculture, you know, we could very easily, which would bring in people and money, a big open air vegetable market, like a farmer's market. You have all the agricultural land, you have farmers, and you could easily bring in, people in Highland Square would love that. This is real farms, you know? Trust me, you get to the people from the city and advertise that there's this big farmer's market down here, and you'll have people coming here to buy the produce.
What's the place, the ladies, did I say it right?
Yes, Salazay's down the valley. Slazy's or
They
Salazay's.
capitalize on that. It's
All right, well, I'm gonna keep moving so we can get through everything, but these are all great ideas and we're recording them. I'm gonna pop through these pretty quickly because they're part of the, 2004 plan, so I'm not gonna get into this too much because I think you guys have been talking about it. So you had a residential development, commercial development, you wanna keep flipping? These were the goals, so I'm gonna send you this PowerPoint so you can look at it. But again, industrial, commercial, or industrial office, agricultural, immediate preservation, so these were your goals in 2004. More parks and open space, and then environmental conservation. So we can, I mean, we know what it says, and there's different opinions on what we did and what we didn't do, but again, we can kind of get in the middle consensus, and I like the idea too of building on what you have, and we do that a lot in planning, you know, what are you trying to accomplish, and what do you already have that's gonna be a low-hanging fruit? I mean, if we can do that farmer's market, and it's easy, it's gonna be a quick hit, let's get it done. So those are the kind of things we'll talk about as we get kind of further into these planning elements. And then I think the next one. These are just key trends. I'm probably not gonna go through all of them because I want you to take another survey in a few minutes for branding the project. But again, these are things that are happening nationally in planning. Not to say they're all happening here. You see it around me, sorry. But cannabis, I think, is happening here. You know, equity, diversion, inclusion is happening. Public health is obviously huge right now. The Great Resignation, you're gonna be affected by it. People are resigning. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I think that a lot of people are working part-time, but they aren't interested in having a career. They just wanna have a job, so that's different. You know, housing affordability, availability, accessibility, that was mentioned here a couple times. So again, some of this stuff is happening here. Statewide, this is what we see happening in Ohio. Age in place is huge, and you have a lot of ranch houses, which is great, because I think that's important for people to be able to stay in the community, especially, it sounds like everyone here loves it too. If you love your house, you don't wanna leave when you hit, 55 or 65. Work from home is huge. Obviously, we talked about broadband, but these are statewide trends. If you wanna go to the next one, Chris. We have a lot of data that we prepared. I don't wanna dive into it, because I think there's more important things to talk about in the slide deck. But if you want to just, I'm just gonna hit some highlights real quick, because I wanna get you out of here by 2. The big takeaways on this is from the most recent American Community Survey, so it is census data, but it's from 2019. So much has changed since 2019, so I don't wanna put too much into this, but, you know, obviously most of your households have computer and internets, the majority, so that was interesting that I heard that some people couldn't access it. Most of your units were built between 40 and 79. You had a decrease in housing units built between 80 and 89. There are only about 160 units that are newer, that will be built since 2000. Now that's 2019 data, so I don't know how many housing starts you had in 20 and 21 and 22. Your median home value stayed about the same between 2006 and 2019, so obviously that's super low because everything's gone crazy. Again, I'm assuming your housing would increase, value would increase because of everything that's happened with COVID. There are a couple other little things I wanted to point out about data that I didn't have on the slide. Your 25 plus population is keeping pace with the county, so that's great. So you're not losing 25 plus age, which is great. You want those people in your community. Your poverty levels of families below poverty are negative numbers. So I guess my question is, are they leaving the city or getting out of poverty? Does anyone know? I mean, that's something that would be interesting to me. No one knows? It was between the change between 2006 and 2019. Yeah, so less families in poverty.
Probably moving out.
You think they're moving out?
So high.
That's probably, okay.
One of the things I noted on this,
Sure.
I ran this off,
Thank you.
was that it said, family households with households with children under 18.
Okay,
Between 2006 and 2019, that dropped 14.19%. That's a huge decrease in those families.
so where are they going? Are they
Right,
going-
and then it said households with children. Does that mean single-parent households?
I'd have to look, I think
Or
you're
maybe
right, yeah.
grandparents, but that also dropped
Dropped.
9.2%, so we have a 25% decrease in families with
Yeah, we
children
can
under
double check that,
18.
that's what, I mean, that's, so then so your 25+ population this next time is gonna be,
Right.
Notice the average age, even if you look around this room, the average age, according to census, is 47 years old. We're getting old, you know? And you talked about single family, you know, the ranch style
Yep.
housing, that's what we want because we're old. But what does that mean in terms of 20 years from now, how do we get the younger families that, I live on a street where a household just sold and an elderly woman who retired sold it to another elderly couple who is retired. You know, and we have literally on my street, 3 kids, I think that, 3 kids now. On my street of 15 houses, we have 3 kids. We're getting older. What does that mean in terms of the future, the housing, the school system, the support, the tax level? Too many people are house rich, cash poor. House is expensive, they don't have the monthly income to pay the taxes. Look at Coventry, what happened up in Coventry around the lakes, oh my God, you know, they can't pass school taxes because house rich, cash poor. And that's an issue, that's a major, you wanna do sewer lines, to replace a septic system now is about $15,000 to replace a septic system. If you're on a retirement income, how do you afford that? You know, even though the county will have programs, payment plans, I'm on the Board of Health, they have all sorts of plans, it's still $15,000 out of some homeowner's pocket, you know?
yeah, they're good, those are good points.
And if they sell it, the other thing is, I'm in housing, one of the other things is there's a lot of investors now buying single-family homes, out-of-state investors, and flipping them to rentals. Now, I don't see anything up here about rentals, I don't know what the rental population is in New Franklin, but I can tell you right now, it's a major problem in certain communities, not just the city of Akron, but other communities. A lot of out-of-state investors buying homes and renting them out, and they could care less about the quality of the home. They wanna buy it, own it for a few years and flip it, so.
And so we'll put this data, and you can go ahead and digest it, email me with questions, but we'll put this data into the report as well. Just kind of take a snapshot, but it'll be interesting to see when we get new updated data, because things have changed so much. Right, I'm gonna ask you to pull out your phones and scan this QR code or go to the website. It's very important to brand a project. So yours was together, tomorrow, separate, together, tomorrow, together, not separate, tomorrow, today, tomorrow, together.
Now we talked about being older.
Your flip phone. You can come up closer, or you can just type the Survey Monkey or the www Survey Monkey into your browser.
Did you email it to them?
I could later. But if you take a picture of it, it'll take you right to the survey.
My phone's in the car.
We won't tally it tonight. How about when I send the presentation to you, you can take, it's literally 5 questions. And they almost seem silly, but the point is we're trying to brand this project. We want to make sure there's a logo, so every public person or citizen knows that when they see the logo and the tagline that we're talking about this planning process. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. I literally have like 3 more slides, I promise. Were you able to get it? And I'll share the results. So I'll give you, what's today, Tuesday? I'll give you till next Monday to take the survey, or maybe Friday, and then share it with you on Monday. And then what we do is we give that information that you provide to the graphic designer, and then she comes up with a brand. And I can show you. Yeah. So this is what we'll have at our visioning event, and this is Holmes County, so obviously it's not applicable to you guys. But so she came up with a quilt, because it's Amish country, and it was called Shaping Our Future. I mean, I thought it was really cute. But so this was something that went out, and I mean, it's gonna be on the document, but this went out to all the community members to put their vision. So every time the community sees that quilt logo, they know, and Shaping Our Future is the comprehensive plan. So that's what we're trying to, we have our logo, or we have our tagline, we just need the logo. Do you really have to think about the question? Sorry. What kind of car would you be? What kind of color? I mean, the colors. What kind of animal? I mean, it really, it's all part of graphic design. It's beyond my knowledge. All right. While you're finishing that up, I'm just gonna jump. I want to talk a little bit about the visioning event. So that'll be our next big event. I can move it up if they want to keep standing up. You can move it up, it's fine. And that'll be, I think the city's working on booking the place. So we're kind of looking at more of a social gathering. You know, we'll do an invitation, we'll do these visioning cards, and we'll invite the entire public, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout. But that event will include like a PowerPoint from Pogelmeyer, and we have breakout groups with tables, and then we'd ask the steering committee to man the tables. We'll give you a cheat sheet on what you're supposed to say, and then kind of gather information on that, 8 people at each table, or 10 people at each table, their vision. And then the group comes back together and kind of reports the vision. You'd be surprised, more often than not, there's a lot of the same visions in one room, so that's kind of an exciting process. Has anyone ever gone to a visioning session before? Yeah, I mean, I think they're fun. I mean, they're better than SWATs, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think visioning is more fun, more exciting. So we'll talk about that. We'll send an email out. We have 2 dates for that. And you can see there was one we did. I think that was Randy who worked on your 04 plan, but that was, I think, in Michigan. And then some of the flyers that we developed. All right, and then next slide. Are we ready to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary? Anyone want to volunteer? Basically, the chair is going to run the meeting, work on all the items with the consultant. The vice will assist the chair, and then the secretary will record notes and action items at each meeting, and then answer an email from the website or pass that email on to the appropriate person.
I nominate Josh as chair. I nominate Michael because he's not in the room saying. And now I'm gonna nominate Barry.
Oh. I mean, if you want to think about it, we can think about it. Does that sound like you want to think about it? Okay. And if you want to email me if you're interested in being chair, vice chair, secretary, that would help. Okay. And then I guess I want you guys to all think about your organizations you belong to. And I'd like you to email me and volunteer to speak at your organization. And if you want to take another person from this committee, that would be great. The 2 of you will go. I give you the PowerPoint. You throw it up there, and basically it's a real short PowerPoint, just talking about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what whoever's in the audience, what their vision is. So again, reaching out to the public. I'd also recommend that if you have neighbors that want to talk about it, invite them to the meetings, friends, coworkers, please invite them to the meetings as part of the public, and then also invite them to go to the website so they can leave comments at the website as well. Okay, one more slide. So basically your homework, volunteers to staff the Tudor House, if anyone's going to be in town Memorial Day weekend. And then also, I'm calling it My Voice, My Vision. I mean, if you're in the community and you see something you love, you're in the community, you see something you'd like to change, snap a picture of it, email it to me. Or email it to the website, the city website for the comprehensive plan. And is Katie here still? What's the website or the email address? I'm sorry.
Comprehensive plan at newfranklin.org.
Say it again.
Comprehensive plan.
Okay.
At newfranklin.org.
So comprehensive plan at newfranklin.org. So either there or to my email, that would be great. And then as far as the Tudor House event, it basically would be, we'll have these cards made for you guys once we do the logo. It basically be handing these out, have people fill it out, talking to people, telling people about our next meeting, getting people excited about, being involved in the process. And I think that's it. That was a lot of information. You guys were awesome and so patient. I really appreciate it. If there's any comments more for the steering committee, and then I'll open it up to the public.
Yeah, I guess in your presentation, talking about the schedule of events and so forth, I didn't see the answer to the question I asked earlier is if we have concerns about the actual process process rather than, of the survey, rather than the content that's gonna be in it, when do we have the opportunity to express those?
Sure, so when you
Ideas or
say
concerns.
process, do you mean like where it's located in the timeline, or just surveying?
No, the
general?
actual process of surveying the community.
Okay, I guess now, so, yeah,
If you guys will indulge me, I got
Sure.
maybe 2 minutes.
that's fine.
One of the things came up during the meeting here is about, you can talk about this, any community has a population bell curve. There's some people that are young, there's a midpoint, which is the average age, and then there's a percentage of the population that's old. I looked at the numbers you had here, and roughly 25% of the population here in New Franklin is 65 plus.
Right.
There's a lot of people who aren't tech savvy.
Okay,
If you're gonna do the whole process of surveying on SurveyMonkey, you're gonna be eliminating a bunch of that. I know it's been said that the surveys would be available at the city building, but what if those people can't drive? I'd be willing to volunteer, and I'm sure there'd be other people who would be willing to go if there's a mechanism by which they can say, I'd like to get a survey, we'll go take it to them.
yep, that's fine.
Okay, and then maybe for those surveys that are delivered, maybe the city pays postage back, so they don't have to make other arrangements.
Yeah, we get, well, that's fine, so you're thinking we need some sort of print survey for sure,
Okay, so
and then
that
we
was-
can figure out how to get it to them and get it back.
I can understand that, I mean, I would be one, I would go deliver surveys if that was
Sure.
something
Okay.
that people wanted.
We can put that together.
Or I could have all my kids do it.
Not only that, yeah, we
Yeah,
can
okay.
still do that with the older population. The folks that have the technology can travel with it, if it's a phone survey.
Yeah.
Well, there you
And
go.
a laptop survey, I
Or
can
an
take my
iPad,
phone
yeah.
and laptop into places. And not only that, I think the whole purpose of this is so we get to know our neighbors and hear their voices.
Sure.
That's great.
And we are the representation of the future. And the point you bring up is that we don't want to disenfranchise
No, I
any
agree,
population.
yeah, no, I
So
agree.
The
I'm
sec-
on that, put my name on that, all day
Okay,
long.
that sounds good, so we'll add that.
the second thought I had was, how do we make sure that the survey's gonna be valid? What's the mechanism, if it's gonna be done online, to ensure integrity? That it's not gonna be any ballot box stuffing by somebody who's interested in developing their piece of property with low-income housing. How do you-
We had that comment in Grafton, the administrator was very concerned about that when we did the survey in Grafton, and we
So-
did not, SurveyMonkey is, it's one, I think it's an IP address, by IP address, I'm not, we can research what it is, but we have not, and two, when you look through the surveys, you can tell if someone's the same thing over and over again, and you can, we've not had a problem with it, but again, if you, we can research it, but also if you have ideas on how to protect against it.
There's lots of ideas of different ways that can be done.
Okay, that sounds good.
Third, accuracy of the types of question there, or accuracy in the survey. I've seen lots of surveys that ask questions that lead to a desired result. I think if you're gonna ask a question one way, you gotta ask the opposite of, like, if this is the benefit you want a lot of, do you want more shopping, more entertainment, et cetera? You also have to ask the question, if you get more shopping and entertainment, do you want all the traffic and congestion and potential crime, et cetera, that goes along with that? I don't know if you do that with a double blind, or if you do it with a weighted answers, or, you know, however, but that's gotta be taken into consideration. And then thirdly, on the survey still, it was the thought about inclusion. Who's allowed to respond? Is it only residents? Is it one per household? Is it one per registered voter? Is it, and these, I don't know the answer to these questions, but I think it's something we need to
Yeah, we
need to talk
usually do
about.
residents, we usually target residents, and then.
What about business owners who aren't
Yep,
residents?
Yeah, we can do that, so we would do a qualifying question in the beginning and saying, you know, either what's your zip code, do you live, work, or are you a tourist or a visitor to New Franklin, we kind of, and then we can.
Okay, but I guess my reason for bringing it up is as a community, do we wanna have business owners who don't live here participate in the survey, or do we? And that's a question we need to ask ourselves. Is it non-residents who pay income taxes? Business owners with business addresses in the city, and how do you verify that? So those are some of the things. And then one other thing I tossed out was, as part of this process, we're talking about zoning or potential zoning changes. There's something that's happening over in Norton that makes sense. They're doing planned development.
Yep.
Where they come in and you have individual, family-owned properties that, you know, has all the benefits of people owning the property and maintaining it. But he allows smaller lots as long as The community is planned, it has shared green space, and it has a community gathering space in the middle of it. Seems to work over there, the properties no? Okay, well, it's something, I just tossed that as something
Yeah,
for
well,
discussion.
I think that we'll talk
I
about,
agree.
this isn't gonna be a zoning update though, like this comprehensive plan won't be a zoning update, but it'll have recommendations, so if that's something we come to, that planned unit development, and I keep going back to Grafton, but we just finished that one, so it's at the top of my mind. That we just, one second, that we just did that one, that was a big thing, they did planned unit development, and it has been working.
With the survey, would it be possible to involve some of the high school classes?
That's one of our recommendations,
I mean,
yep.
they go around and do the solicitations for the band and, you know, the band and the drama classes and whatever like that. Is it possible to ask them to help?
Yeah, we usually, we do,
Involve them because we're old.
there's school people right here, yeah. Yeah, and I think that we usually ask like the social studies class or the English class, language arts, we ask that class to take it. Or we ask seniors, we usually are really interested in seniors, not so much the smaller kids, but maybe we should be, I don't know. I mean, that's something we can decide if we can, I mean, definitely seniors, because I think they're the next, they're making the decision to stay or leave.
I think some of the scout troops also might want
Okay.
community service hours. Do the survey, you know, participate in the survey out to my neighborhood, walk through what kids need.
Yep, no, that sounds good, and,
Maybe give up $5 for something.
and we can do incentives like gift cards, local gift cards, we've done that before. Mark, do you wanna type up your comments about the survey and then I
I
can?
already have it. I can-
Thanks, yeah, email it to me, and we'll send it out to everyone, maybe just do a doodle poll and decide how we wanna, what the best process is for the survey. But yeah, you believe me, we're not just gonna send the survey out, I mean, it's up to you guys, what questions you want, how it needs to go out. And I mean, we hear loud and clear, there has to be a print component, and how to get it back and forth, we're gonna have to determine too. Anything else from the committee before I let the public speak?
We're gonna have any subcommittees?
You could if you wanted to, I mean,
I
that, did
didn't
you
say I
guys?
wanted to. Didn't know if that was part of your plan.
I wasn't going to.
Like to work on the survey, that might be
Yeah.
something that
Yeah, we
you
could
could
do
get
that, and sometimes we have like an economic
Maybe.
development subcommittee, we have a recreation if that's what you guys wanna do, I'm game. And maybe that's a group that meets on their own too, as a small group, as we get moving. If you guys are willing, I'm willing, yeah.
I think when we talk about leadership at the next meeting, that
Okay.
might be a time to
Okay.
kind of push some of those ideas
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay,
The value of that is people that are passionate about
Right.
these particular
Mhm.
topics
Yep.
will put the energy and the focus on
okay.
that.
So let's add that to your homework. If we did subcommittees, what subcommittee would you wanna be on? Those planning elements we'll go back to, and I'll put that in the notes.
Is there any kind of budget? Like I was thinking, like if you did a billboard and put something on that, and put the Survey Monkey, like link on there, when people see that and maybe.
I don't know, is there,
jot it
like,
down?
what billboards, like, is there one?
We got one on
There's
there.
one by bands.
Yeah.
Not only that, we still have our in front of the public safety center is a digital.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, if you have community digital ones that we can put it on, that, I don't think there's a budget to actually buy a billboard, but if
Yeah.
there's like a church, sign that changes, or a school sign that changes, or.
Bells.
Buy some yard
Yeah.
signs too, they're not expensive.
We've done that, we've done the yard signs and they have the QR code, and we put it on the trail, so when people are walking on the trail, but then who are you gonna pick up? You're gonna pick up
Yeah.
everyone, you're not just gonna pick up, so that's why we need the qualifier in the beginning, you know, are you a resident, are you a business owner, are you just a visitor, or not just a visitor, but are you a visitor?
Not only that, what the survey does is allows us to capture data. The data allows us to make the decisions.
Yep.
So we
Yeah, I
can't
agree with that.
necessarily worry. I think it's important what Mark brings up about the quality of the survey, the proper questions.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, all that survey information comes back to us, and then
Right.
we decide.
And you can sort it too, I mean, we can sort it by anything, I mean, whatever, you know, male, female, age group, you know, whether residents, non-residents, we can sort their answers, so you can see who's saying what, to kind of dive in to see, you know, exactly what data you need to look at those planning elements. Okay, any other questions from the committee?
Maybe you can look at the old questions. At the
Yeah, we
old
could look at those
questions, well, that's a
questions,
great
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it'd be nice to see the old comment, the old comments from other people, to see the old questions and kind of go through that, just to kind of see what our predecessors were
Okay.
looking at. And then the other thing, in talking about the break-off committees
Subcommittees,
and
yeah.
you know, the vice chair, the chair, not necessarily volunteering, but there's a lot of people here that are already members of the school board, members of city council or city commission. I would actually like to keep those people out of any group, because I think that what they do in their other committees may filter in, and I'd like to keep it as unbiased as possible, if that makes sense. And
that's just. I'm not saying anything against those individuals or anything, but if we're trying to keep this where everybody has a say. So if one person is, we have school board members, so obviously they're already on that board, they're already connected in a certain way in the community. There's others here that aren't connected, and it would keep it more unbiased, was my thought.
I will make note of that. Okay. Anything else from the committee? Public? Would you like to say anything? Sure, right back here.
There was a couple comments about the Manchester Road corridor.
Okay.
I would like to suggest between Vanderhook and Center Road
Okay.
that no other businesses put on the road, please.
Between Vander.
And Center. It's hard enough to get out of John's Road now.
Okay.
You have your drive-through.
Okay.
Your doctor's office and John's Road right there, and sometimes the people turning are getting in the turn lanes before you can get out,
Okay.
and it's just a whole mess.
Okay. So maybe that's an area we look at when we talk about transportation.
And if there's traffic control there, nothing's gonna change it except, maybe a traffic light at John's Road, and I don't wanna see that.
Okay.
You put one.
Don't say it. Way to derail a meeting. Stay to the right. Can't hear. Can you guys be quiet for a minute? Go ahead. Go ahead.
You have semis coming out of the highway distributing, and you almost don't make it out. And then if you have Quarter Lakes Park fireworks or something there, that's another impossibility. So
Okay.
you have to go down to Vanderbilt and try to get out at the light. And you put any more businesses there,
Okay.
and it won't be the area I bought into 20 years ago.
Yeah, we can add that to our transportation discussions. Anyone else from the audience, right here?
Well, I want to thank the committee and everybody that volunteered, to be honest. You know, I want to thank you for your time and, because you love the city. You want to keep it looking the way you want it when you moved in here. So I just wanted to thank you all for being on the committee. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Keep coming to our meetings. Keep coming. Over here.
I want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is James Scholes. I was born and raised here. My father retired from New Franklin Police Department back before they became city. My cousin Fred Shantz retired from the department. I was ex-military police. When I was 32, I'm 54 now, I thought grass would be greener on the other side, and I took off when I moved to Florida. I was down there 21 years. I hated every minute of it. Well, someone mentioned traffic, and it just came out, I'm sorry. You don't know what traffic is. I just came back 11 months ago. I brought my wife with me that I met in Florida. She's never been here. She loves New Franklin. Thought she was gonna hate it. I came back and, you know, having been here for 32 years, leaving for 21, and coming back and seeing what's changed, the appearance hasn't, but a lot of the attitude has. I'm seeing, from what I'm seeing online over the past 11 months, wanting to bring in more business, wanting to bring in lower income housing, or affordable housing as it's referred to. New Franklin has their crime rate. I know the biggest crime rate here is theft of property. You know, someone going where I stole and stuff like that. The crime rate here is 66% lower than the national average.
Yes.
There's something to say about that. And that something to say is you don't have low-income housing. You don't have big business here bringing in an element of undesirable people. This community, from what I, you know, one of the people I went to school with is in this room. and part of this, okay, I'm not gonna mention any names. He's still here.
Just kidding.
5 or 6 of my friends I graduated high school are still here living in the same house they grew up in. This is it's a big area with a small community of a little over 14,000 people. Keep it that way. Keep it that way. You don't wanna, trust me, I've lived in the big cities. I've been in the small city, moved to bigger cities, came back. You are much better off, if you can, keep it in a tight-knit, small community. You don't need big business here. Big business is 15-minute drive away, any direction. You know, you can find your big business. If you can find a way to just improve the infrastructure a little bit, better maintenance of roads, and I understand that the road department has a limited number of people. I get it, you know, they do what they can do. Upgrading, you know, electrical services. I mean, I'm living out on West Mesilla and Kepler Road. We just bought the house. It was a fixer-upper. I'm a remodel contractor, so I'm fixing my own house. And I just had double hernia surgery 6 days ago, so I'm not doing anything at the moment. But in 4 or 5 more weeks, my business that I had in Florida doing remodels is here. And I'm gonna start doing that here as a small business. Me and one other person, you know. It's a very desirable community to be in. And I understand a lot of people are older now. But you people that are older, I mean, I'm middle-aged, I consider it. When you pass away, you're gonna leave your house to a family member, kid, you know, if you have one, your kid's gonna love it here. You know, they were probably born and raised here. Some people have been here 60 years, some people have been here 1 or 2 years, 20 years, whatever. I left and came back, so I've seen what I thought would be greener on the other side, it's not. By the grace of God, He brought me home, and I wanna keep it home.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir, I
Thank you.
appreciate that. And to your testament about crime, you know, that's one thing that is nice about this area. I came from inner city Akron. You know, I still hear gunshots every night, but that's no longer because of my neighbor getting his door shot, door busted down and shot. Neighbor 2 doors down was shot and almost killed by home invasion with me and my kids in the house. And my daughter woke me up. I heard something, my daughter came running in because she saw the cops outside chasing the guy. Now, I grew up on Cole Avenue in Firestone Park, and it was a very rough neighborhood. There was plenty of gang shootings.
I'll let you know, I was in the area of Fort Myers, Florida, 21 years. There's a murder every 2 or 3 a week.
And
I mean, it's insane.
It is very nice to have a community where people do know each other. And part of that safety is a testament to our police officers. You know, I leave for work every morning and I see a couple of them out here on Manchester Road. You know, yeah, they're just sitting there watching cars, but they're there. There's a presence. You know, in the area I grew up, cops didn't come into the area. They did not come into the area. And if they did, they came in with 6 cruisers because they were afraid. You know, I actually work with, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I work with a group called Adopt the Cops Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where they teach the cops how to use non-lethal, non-force methods. That's something I would like to bring to our police force also, but it does a lot to, it would be very helpful in areas like the upper deck and areas where we have the bars, to kind of tone down some of the rhetoric. I know there's a lot of, fights there. But overall, I think the police presence around here is great. I love seeing it. You know, every officer I've met, my second night here, I had an officer knocking on my door and woke me up in the middle of the night. But he was a young guy, I don't remember his name, but he was just polite as can be. You know, hey, I'm really sorry to wake you up. We got a call for this area. We're looking for somebody, you know, and you know, and it's just so nice. And I'm not used to that. In Akron, they bang on the door, you know, police, open up. Like, you know.
I'll share a comment with you I seen online. Someone had asked on one of the many Facebook pages I'm on in the area now. Someone had asked where a nice place to move was in Akron. And the response comment just, I couldn't help but laugh. Guy said, get a map, draw a circle around Akron, move outside the circle.
I'm gonna see if there's any other audience comments before we break. Oh, right back here, way back. Oh, you, yeah, sorry.
My name is Robin Agee, and I want to thank again, so you said, all that you guys are doing and all the resources that you have to and to Obermeyer for your assistance through this process. And I know it's going to be a long process. I moved out here 20 years ago because I lived in East Akron. And that is just as bad as Firestone Park, so I know what you're saying. And I worked in downtown Cleveland for over 30 years. So I know why I came out here for the crime and because it was rural. And I would like it to be as much maintained as rural, but we are a city. And we became a city a little bit over, I guess this isn't quite 20 years, 18 years, 20 years ago. And I would say at least half of that time since then was the growing pains of becoming a city. There were a lot of outside influences that I think our city council had to address first. Now, those who know me and heard me, I've been quite a voice in the community, both good and bad. But I do have to give it to our cities, they've been growing. And a lot of things hit them in the first 10, 15 years that the county required, the state required, the federal required. And I think we've kind of gotten over that, so now we can get back into what the original survey said. So I would like to have some focus on that. That a lot of people who live in this community know that, like has been said, I can go 15 minutes in any direction and I will hit something. And I don't want the headaches of the heavy traffic. I get it now, I live on Center Road. You know, when something's going on in Manchester, Center gets it. Okay, I have 5 acres out there and I wanna stay that way, and I don't wanna have a whole lot of, I don't wanna say I don't want, I would prefer not to have a lot of businesses and industry coming in here and extra housing. A lot of farms were lost in the last 20 years that were developed into homes. I think we have enough of that type of development. I also believe that we have enough going on in our community. The city has functions that addresses things with the Tudor House. There's always something going on at least once or twice a month in this community. Either it's a school event, a city event, or some special event. So I think we have a lot of this stuff. And when something's going on, people in the community know about it, and you're either gonna be there or they're not gonna be there. The modern conveniences, if you chose to live out here, you didn't have them when you either moved out here or whatever. And there's always another way to have broadband coming in. You knew, if you moved into this community, you knew what this community had at its disposal. So bringing in all this new stuff, I think, is gonna be very costly. And I know it's a futuristic, it's 20 or 30 years for that hope, but that money that's being spent for that hope 20 or 30 years is based upon the people who are living now. That tax structure that exists. You either have it or you're gonna lose it. So I just want those considerations to be done. I plan on attending as many of these as I can. I did have a couple questions that they could be addressed. Is you talked about Hogemeyer is gonna review the 2004 data in that survey. And you said some things were gonna be reviewed and some you didn't have to review. And I just had concerns with that comment because a lot of the maps have changed. A lot of the infrastructure has changed in 20 years. So I would just encourage it. I'm hoping that more of the data is gonna be reviewed from that 2004.
Yeah, well, whatever maps we can update, we will. I was thinking more like soils. There's a lot of maps that have to do with like the types of soil. I'm not sure how much that kind of stuff would change.
You and I might have a disagreement on that because a lot of the regulations over the last 20 years have required homeowners to do certain things and other things. But
Yeah,
I think
we can
that's
look at
your
it.
expertise, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, we can look at
And
it.
also, you've shown data in your recording. Is that information gonna be available on the website?
Sure,
for
yeah, we'll put
public?
it's like the 3 pages of census data. We'll put it up there, yeah.
But I mean, any document that's distributed to the community.
Yep, Katie will get up on the
will be
website.
posted on the website and
Definitely,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, if you had mentioned that during your
that's good.
conversation.
Yeah, so,
'cause
yeah.
It's a little hard to hear back here sometimes when the conversation.
Yeah, so everything that we do here will go on the website so the public can see it.
All right, great, that's what I had, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's another comment up here? Yep.
And I guess one of my concerns would be with the integrity of the survey, and I did hear that brought up. What made me think of it was the mention that, oh, we should have high school students fill out the survey too. Personally, I think that's a bad idea, only because young people have a completely different, you know, when you're in high school and you're graduating, a lot of the kids wanna get out of the country, they wanna be in the city where all the action is, so I think that could have the potential to skew. The people buying the homes here and paying taxes and raising their families, they're a little older. And they've already, you know, seen some of the things that come with the cities or whatever, or they've moved out and rented, I think you said you did, and came back when you were ready to have the country life again.
And I think so we can sort out data. So I think it's a good idea, my professional and personal opinion is, I think it's a great idea to survey the youth. Cause you might get ideas of things that they're looking at that you're not seeing. But when we report the data, we could do, you know, homeowners, we could do, you know, 25 and above, you know, or 18 and below. Like we could separate it out so it's not the whole, yeah, so that would be our goal. And that's what we do with any process. We separate it out. Like we do residents, non-residents, we do different age groups, just so we can see so it's not just one big data drop. It's kind of an organized data dump.
I understand your point, and I appreciate that. Like, I can understand not wanting high school kids to have so much of an active voice, but it'd still be really nice to hear what they have to say.
Yeah,
Whether or not we use it as part of our thing here is irrelevant, excuse me, but it would be nice to at least hear what their opinions are. Because they are, in essence, if you've heard a lot of people here, they've been here for generations. I have not, but you've got a lot of people here that have been for generations or have come back. And that would be, nice to know what that young population is looking for and kind of what they desire.
And we could even do a separate student survey. I mean, if that would make you guys feel more comfortable, we could just do a student, because again, it's gotta be quick and easy, and QR code on their phone, so they don't have to mess with it. So yeah, maybe it's like 10 questions or 5 questions, so that's a good point. There was another comment over here.
I'd like to thank the committee too. I've heard a lot of wide-ranging opinions, which is great. I've heard a lot of things that have been concerns of mine that have been brought up, which I think is great. More than one person mentioned that they moved here to their little slice of heaven or their little slice of happiness, and that's been my experience too. And I agree with wanting to keep the good things about our community, the lower crime rate, the open space, all of the positives that were mentioned, and build from that. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from the public? I think we're gonna wrap it up because it's 8:20 and I feel like I've kept you too long. I will get notes to you before the end of the week. I will get homework. Everything will be on the website for the public so they can look it over, like the PowerPoint, the data, the timeline, things like that. And then we'll talk about doing subcommittees, you know, like a survey subcommittee, maybe an economic development one, a parks one, you know, everything like that. So I'll probably